But compared to these Washington tribes, the small tribes of western Washington, we have a tribe that has around 10 to 12,000 members. And they all speak, they don't all speak, but the majority of them still speak Crow. They speak English, but they speak Crow. They go to public school. They use the same curriculum as other students use. We have teachers who teach the same thing from grade school through college, but they also teach Crow, Crow language, Crow stories, Crow history, and we find ourselves to be rather unique in this country, to be a tribe, Indian tribe that still teaches its own tradition, its own culture, its own history in the Crow way, not the white man's way. So when I claim a little bit of education, mine is a little bit different than some of these graduates that we see from these college universities. And in addition to that, we find ourselves today in a country where we're a minority. And being a minority, we take part in a lot of things, not because of ourselves, but because of the laws of this country. We have minority programs that give us a special niche in education and employment and other things that we do, so that in addition to being a veteran of U.S. military with veterans' rights, we also have Indian rights. And it's usually not too well known. And when it comes to the Indian tribes of state of Washington, we have the small tribes of western Washington. They're not very big. I come from a tribe that numbers over 12,000 members, enrolled members. So it's a little bit unusual for us to see a small tribe of a few hundred or less. And our reservations are pretty big, in the millions of acres, rather than the small tribes of western Washington, for example. So I'm Indian, but somewhat different from the Indians of Washington State and western Washington. We say that because we have different backgrounds. We have different principles, different beliefs, different ways of relating to our environment. And we were Plains Indians, just like our ancestors were years ago, who were buffalo hunters and lived on the plains. And today, we don't hunt the buffalo anymore, although the tribe has a herd of buffalo, and ceremonially they have buffalo hunts every year, but we don't go to the supermarket for our food and dress the way we're supposed to dress in everyday clothes. And we are unique, though, in that a majority of the people in our tribe speak their own language. They still practice the Indian way. We still practice some of the ceremonies that they used to do centuries ago. So today, you can go to Indian celebrations all over this country, and they're all good. But you come to Crow country, and you can come to the Crow Fair, annual Crow Fair, the third week in August, and you'll find the largest teepee encampment anywhere in the world, because you'll have 1,000 or more teepees and campground just like they always did. And they camp just like the way they used to do, and we revert back to the old system, so that everything that you hear is not English, it's in Crow. Everything they do is the Crow way, so that the official language of the Crow is the Crow language itself. And some years ago, a couple of our members went to MIT up around in New England, and they went to college back there, and they we have a written language of the Crow, so that we have over 80% speakers of the Crow language. We have over 90% who still practice the age-old traditions of the Crow tribe. The Indian people on the Crow reservation are no different than other Indian people, except that they maintain a lot of the old ways. Some of the ways that they practice are still the same way over 100 years ago. We have ceremonies that we still do that they did for centuries ago. So it is that I'm here with my daughters, among you people, and I just want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to visit with you. I get to rolling, and I usually talk more than I should, but interrupt me anytime you want. Just raise your hand, and my daughters will help me watch out for you, and we'll have a question or something, we'll stop and try to take care of that. So there you go.
I got a question. When they built Carlisle and they went through Rosebud and they went through Pine Ridge and they shipped all their kids to Carlisle, when during that boarding school time, where did they come through and try and pick your children?
We were sending young Indian children off to boarding schools like Carlisle. Mm-hmm. Where did Crow kids go? Where did they send them?
Carlisle was one of the first Indian schools sponsored by the Indian Bureau, and they came from all the tribes, so that we have Crow families who had members went to Carlisle, and they learned to speak English there, and the Indian school taught them the American way, and not the English way, but the American way. And when they come back, the Crows characterize them as not being Indian anymore. They no longer behave or act like Indians, they act like white people. So they even cut their hair, so that whenever they cut their hair, that said that they crossed over, they ceased being Indian because they didn't wear their hair long anymore. So that way back in the 1850s and 1860s, we had Indian people sent out to Carlisle and other Indian schools across the country. And those were our first educated Indians. And they didn't usually go beyond the 6th grade, but they spoke English, which is something that the Crows did not do in their home. And in the 1880s, they signed a treaty, and they allowed public schools to teach Indian students, Indian children. So we became English-speaking Indians around 1870 and 1880, so that the Indian people were, in their words, could become white. And to this day, that division still exists, so that my children don't speak Crow fluently, because I married outside the tribe, and my wife did not speak Crow. We spoke English in the home, so we raised our children speaking English. We didn't speak Crow in the home. And they got pretty good listening to their grandparents talking Crow. So they got real expert at it. And today they tease each other about how much they know and how much they do not know. But my family is not unique in that respect. Many members of the tribe are that way too. They're a mixed parentage. They speak Indian at home. Sometimes they speak English at home. So today we are a mixed group of people living the non-Indian way, and the old Indian way is almost all gone. Yes, sir.
What was your rank, and what other tribes did you know in the military?
Oh, I was a non-commissioned officer, staff sergeant, and when the military, everybody called me and we were chiefs. We were not chiefs at all. We were just warriors and wearing a uniform. And they looked at us as being different, but we were just like the other recruits. We knew very little about the military, we had no experience, but they expected us to be Indian fighters, and, code talkers, and all those things. We didn't talk code at all, we just talked crow. And to this day, they still called me a code talker, but the only one who could understand me in the entire military on those missions was my brother on the other side of the radio connection that we had. And we talked crow, and the Germans were very good at decoding code that the Americans would use. But Indian languages, we understood they couldn't decode. My dad was reminding me that when we were in the military, some of the airmen here remember how things were, including Dr. Nossi, who flew bombing missions. But if you don't mind, Don, I'll put you out. These are friends that live here in Washington, but we were next door neighbors when we worked for the Indian Service. But this is Don Nostine and his wife, Mrs. Nostine, right there in the corner. Raise your hand or something.
Welcome. Welcome.
Those are very friends. Yes, my daughter was reminding me, I might share with you how my brother and I went off to war, where we had no experience in the military at all. And when we went to war, our only background was to recall what our grandparents talked about. My grandfather was a warrior, and we could recall from him how he prepared for battle, so that when the crewmen on the day of the mission, when they go have Christian services to prepare them for battle, the minister would come and everybody would go join him, and they'd offer prayer, and at which time my brother and I would pull out of the group. We'd go off somewhere by ourselves, and we prepared for battle the way we understood the Crows to do that. So we both flew 50 missions, and we did that for every mission that we went on. We didn't go to the Christian minister preparing the air crewmen for the mission by reciting Christian prayers and so on. We did the Crow thing. And because of that, they had spies follow us to see what we did, what was different about us, so that it finally showed up in Stars and Stripes, the military paper, that my brother and I would not do a briefing for before a mission, but they would go off and have our own ceremony. It was not a ceremony at all. It was just preparing ourselves individually for the day of battle. So what it might look like something to other people was just a different thing with this. But from that, my mother wrote a letter to the Secretary of the Army and said that